Okay, folks. Hey, I need your attention. Hey, guys and gals. All right, so who needs a hard copy of this, right? I only got like so many. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Sure.
All right, so I only got 10. So
I have it online.
yeah, if you can read it online.
I'll take one.
If you can read it online, you can read it online. So anyone, because it's like
All the rich
it's a
people.
lot of paper. I'm trying to print it, but I don't have to. So
I can't control what I look like.
We should have.
this is that article I asked y'all to make any paper to regarding this. Have this read by tomorrow because tomorrow is B Day, and tomorrow I want to discuss this document. And guess what? Considering we're going to discuss it, that's going to be like a big advantage for you in your paper because all you have to do is listen. Yeah, right. All right, so it is October the 22nd, and we're going to discuss a bit more on different modes of business. And we're going to start with talking monopolies. And please keep in mind that there's an assignment posted in the Google Classroom. It's by Von Mises. Make sure that you read his essay.
Wait, can you try to write this down? I think I might forget to do it.
Go ahead. And you're going to have a paper that's due on that, just a short summary on Tuesday. Need one too? All right, I got one more. It's my last one. You're taking my last hard copy. There you go. All right, so let's see here. I believe this is where we last left off. We were talking about, hey folks, I hear like several conversations to my left. You have to stop. We're talking about barriers to entry. And so remember that whenever it cut, this is when we were talking about why there's not really a perfect open market system. There's always going to be some things that's going to make it imperfect. And it's going to make it harder for some people to enter than others. And it's going to make it impossible for others, which leads us to the ultimate barrier, monopoly. This is a market dominated by a single seller. So they form when barriers prevent competitors from entering the market. This is often because of the high cost to supply a product. They take advantage of their monopoly power and charge high prices. In the United States, most monopolies are illegal. However, in U.S. history, monopolies are very good at using the powers of law to make sure that they're the only monopoly. In the past, like in the Gilded Age and the Progressive Era, monopolies would often bribe judges and senators and things and governors to ensure that they had, like the only power within a certain sector. Yeah, like railroads and oil. Yeah.
How would a monopoly, like let's say a business monopoly, make sure that they stay the only competitor?
Well, one way that they can do it nowadays is that what they try to do is like whenever they have competition, like first you get big. And when you're pretty big, what they do is they often, whenever you have small competitors come up, one way to get rid of them is to buy them, right? Buy them out, absorb them. And so
But doesn't that also require their choice? Unless obviously you can force them some way. But that,
yeah, it does. You're
that
right.
gets into a whole different-
I mean, like if I had a small company, like let's say I decided I wanted to make a new search engine, and it was doing okay. I was pulling in like okay wages. I'm like doing like middle class. I'm working out of my home. I got some servers burning up the basement. Well, and then Google comes by and offers me like $10 million for my business. Okay. So yeah, like forget that. What they're going to do is like they have plenty of assets for that, so they can get rid of me. I'm going to be compliant. I'm going to sign probably like a legal agreement saying that I'm not going to, get into the market in this way again. So there you have it.
Another thing about Google, they think of like you're like let's just say you're trying to sell browsers.
Mhm.
And you're working out of your garage in 2020, and you come up to Google saying, "Hey, I will pay you $50,000 to put my thing on the front page of your store," right? What they'll do is do the same exact thing you're doing,
Mhm.
and since they own the market, they'll just pay themselves to put it
Yeah.
on for you more, and you'll never your
That's
idea will never see light.
That's a good idea. That's another thing monopolies are really good at, is that, yeah, they can watch, they have whole groups of people who are out there as far as research and development. And part of that sometimes is watching what other companies do, get it, and then come up with a way to do it better. Now they've taken your idea and they've tweaked it enough to where you can't say they took your copyright. And now you're cornered out of it. So,
And everybody can trust Google because Google's so trustworthy.
yeah.
Why would I go to this random
There's-
browser when I have Google?
Well, there's certain things and names that if you try to Google, it doesn't really come up. It's because they're just, they can choose who does not come up in searches. I mean, this happens.
Another thing, Google, they also own 88.67% of all searches
Yeah,
almost worldwide. The next highest is Bing with 6.7.
yeah. Who uses Bing, or who uses like it's still around, Ask Jeeves.
What is Ask?
It's like, it was one that was around like 20 years ago. It was like AskJeeves.com or something like that. It's a really junky search engine. If you go on there, you were just it's not very accurate.
It's boomer. It's the boomer.
Well, I don't even think they use it, because like a
It was
boomer's just
targeted
gonna use the
towards
first thing that pops up on their phone, be like, okay, Safari, you know, and that's,
I mean, at first it was targeted towards the older generation.
Only use Bing to download Chrome.
My dad said that there used to be one called like something crawl. I don't remember
yeah.
really well, but it was like something crawl.
I mean, I never heard of it. I mean, there
I
are,
don't remember what the real title was, but it was something in the crawl.
like a lot of the third-party options too, if you go out and look for, like Onion software and stuff like that, even they just use different kinds of, like, they either use Google or they use Bing for their searches and stuff. Or even if you wanted to use a more secure browser like DuckDuckGo, you're still going back to Bing or Google for your searches. Yeah.
Or like, even if you don't want to use Google in general, then you still have to use things like YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's some startup competitors with YouTube. Like, I think like Vimeo and Rumble and stuff like that, but nobody goes there. They've got like 5 videos per topic. Like, there's like nothing to do, you know, so.
And then the thing with Twitch, Twitch is the biggest gaming streaming platform in the world currently. There's nothing that even is close. The next closest thing, I think, is like YouTube, or no. Mixer was actually shut down by Facebook.
Twitch is
But so yeah, like they're cornering the market though. I mean, if you have most of the market,
And they're owned by Amazon.
and yeah, Amazon itself, when it comes to online sales, it's top for most products that I can think of.
The thing with Google is they've actually done really well with the browser. But like, if you want to buy something, you don't go to Google, you go to Amazon.
Here's my question though. In my opinion, unless a monopoly is something created by a government, I think that monopolies are kind of like the byproduct of a new marketplace. So what I mean by that is, if you look at the early industrial era for most countries, like you look at England when it first started to expand its empire, they had monopolies on a lot of imports. You look at America during the beginning of its industrial age, you had monopolies on manufactured products. And now you have the technological era. And so now you have monopolies in things that have to do with internet. I think it's just one of those natural progressions that has to get broken through for innovation to come back.
At first it was gold, instead of black gold, now it's digital gold, which is digital gold is personal info, because
Yeah.
if you control personal info, that's like the biggest bartering.
It's pretty
chip we
scary.
have.
It's pretty
That's why
scary.
So a lot of people are very
Also
smart with their.
cryptocurrency.
Huh?
Yeah, I wish I could get in on that, but alas, I can hardly Google anything.
Like big, then black gold with oil, then digital gold with personal info. Personal info, the more the
I like
internet
when you said
unlocks that like multiple like twist combination.
Yeah.
The more they can sell you.
Well, yeah, and yeah, that's how it started out. It started out as something for marketing, but it's become something more like now you're no longer the consumer, you're the product that's being sold.
Yeah.
Hey, folks. All right. So, like we were just discussing, examples of monopolies during the late 1800s and early 1900s: Standard Oil and Carnegie Steel. So, like I just talked about that in my U.S. history classes, like a couple weeks ago. From the late 1800s to 1980s, AT&T, also known as Bell Telephone, had a monopoly on phone services. Microsoft has been accused and convicted in court for having monopolistic characteristics as well.
Microsoft was sold to Stop, but they never been. Okay, the Bell Telephone Company actually in 1972 got sued and the state won. Therefore, they had to split up into different.
Well, and a lot of because of that, because of the monopoly, and also because people needed phones so bad, telephones, landline telephones are one of the most highly regulated things that you can actually get. There's just stacks of laws that have to do with telephones.
I mean,
But not cell phones as much. That's something they're going to catch up on.
well, they act like monopolies are a thing of the past, but only
It's
like
not.
probably like 20 companies own nearly everything that
Yeah.
you use in a single day.
It's
You know-
absolutely
you know
true.
what's
They're
a-
taking
So
everything you get.
so far, there's three major monopoly hearings and trials.
I believe it.
In recent memory,
But
there's 1972
hey, Michael,
Bell
we're going to have to come back to that because we got to keep moving on. We're never going to make it through. All right. So, natural monopolies. Some monopolies are allowed by the government to exist. These are natural monopolies. These are markets that run best when one firm provides all the service. All right. So, like the example they give are utilities, right? So, whenever it comes to water, especially for some communities, you might only have one water reservoir for the water company to draw from. And if you had multiple companies try to draw from that, you might have a lot of problems from that. So, you can also have natural monopolies on other resources too, like say things that have to do with national security, like plutonium or uranium or something like that. Certain oil reserves, some oil companies might have the rights to it, but not others. And that can also have to do with whether the company is certified to do certain things within like environmental ranges and safeties and all that stuff. So there's a lot that can go into this. So just keep in mind, it's like not all of them are necessarily bad. There's some things you might want to have monopolies on, like contracting for military supplies. So that way you can ensure that it's one standard and also that they're more easy to control to make sure that they're not selling certain things that have to do with like weapons to other countries that you might not want to have those weapons and stuff like that. For example, like night vision technology. It's illegal for you as an American to sell night vision to anyone who's not an American because it is considered a sensitive piece of military technology. Even though you can go to Amazon, you can buy some janky night vision. It's still one of those things that's regulated. And some other items as well. So, government monopolies, patents, licenses that give inventors the exclusive right to sell their product for a certain period of time. Patents are really good because they give you an incentive as someone to invent or to create or to take a financial risk to start with a new idea that's going to reap you some profit. Because, like I said, that's one of the primary functions of government, of a modern government. It's not to just ensure your safety, but also to ensure that you have the right to participate in the market system. And remember, it's not just buying and selling, it's also trying to be an entrepreneur. And patents help you do that. Industrial monopolies, rare cases where the government allows an industry to restrict the number of firms in the market. So here you have Major League Baseball, right? Major league sports like baseball, NFL, NBA, they are very, very profitable organizations. They reap in billions of dollars, but they also receive a lot of subsidies. They receive a lot of taxpayer funding as well. And many of the stadiums that you see in cities are actually developed by taxpayer funds. Some of the reason behind that, the rationale is that it brings in people to watch the games, which bring in money and things like that. Same with like state universities. It's usually taxpayer dollars that build the sports complexes and things like that. But one of the biggest draws for donations to universities and also people who want to come to universities often has to do with sports, even if they don't play the team. They're a fan. A lot of people pick what college they're going to go to because they like the team a lot.
I cannot imagine that.
I can't imagine either. I don't like team sports.
Now I feel bad.
Just the way it is. I mean, you don't like it. I don't know what you do.
I mean, I'm not a big sports fan, but I always wanted to go to Texas.
All right.
University of Texas at all.
Kid.
Yeah, my stepdad, his first job when he was in high school, he worked at the beer stand at Ranger Stadium. So he said he really liked that job. So, but that was like the 70s. So.
Sammy's, man. I want to watch that 70s show. It's so funny.
What about,
All right, moving right along. All right, monopolistic competition. Many companies compete in an open market to sell products that are similar but not identical. So this sounds more like oligopoly, honestly. So this almost seems like a misnomer. Having a monopolistic competition, similar but not identical. The only thing I could think of as an example of this are perhaps car manufacturers, because it's really hard to get in there and like build a startup car company. Like, who can do that, right? But there are really big ones out there, and like most major car companies have their own brand, like sedans, SUVs, pickup trucks, and stuff like that. And when you get down to it, they're pretty similar. I mean, yeah, like you have things that do with like quality, resale value, gas mileage, safety, and stuff like that. But when it comes down to it, they're so similar, and they have to meet so many criteria. They're very just not that much different. So let's skip that one. All right. 4 conditions of monopolistic competition. Many firms. So monopolistic competitions do not have high startup costs, and so have more firms. But that goes against my car thing. Few artificial barriers to entry. Barriers to entry are relatively
But
low.
that's not.
Yeah, y'all don't have to write down on this one. Y'all don't have to write down on site control over price. Firms have some freedom to raise prices. I think what they're talking about here is probably just, but that doesn't make sense, because when I don't know. But this goes along with, I don't know. See, like, that's the thing. When I studied this over the summer, I did not come across this term. So this is like really throwing me off. And we're gonna take this. Hey, there we go. So non-price competition. So we know that there's things that go into play with products that don't necessarily have to do with how much you pay for it. So one is the characteristic of goods. Firms distinguish products through size, color, shape, texture, taste. So like Coke versus Pepsi, lemon Pepsi, gross vanilla Coke.
The
Okay.
orange Coke slaps.
It was good.
Yes.
Have you tried the cream soda Dr. Pepper?
Oh, it's amazing.
Oh,
I just
I
like
love.
I remember like when I lived in Europe, they loved putting lemon and everything, and I couldn't stand it.
My
I like
dad-
lemon, but
My dad does put lime in his Dr. Pepper.
that's fine. I just don't like it.
He does it normal.
Yeah.
Have you watched the video detailing the science of sound behind art?
Behind what?
Behind art, like things like Snapple or soda cans, like the plastic bottles that have that sound.
Yeah.
Or like cars that have a
If I had
loud
access,
rumble
I
sound, even though
definitely
they
would.
shouldn't have
Most
that.
definitely.
Yeah.
It's because like they realized that like
It's super responding.
if it didn't have that click sound, people wouldn't buy that car. They would think the door was broken. If it didn't have that rumble, they would think the engine was off. If they didn't have that snap, then they would think, oh, the service fine. So
Yeah.
they spent more time on the sound of the
I'm
product
just
than the
making
product
fun
itself.
of you.
I remember hearing that was a major problem people have with electric cars. That people would test drive them and they didn't like it because it's so quiet. All they would hear is like the rush of the air and the tires on the road, and it freaked them out. And so yeah, there are electric cars out there with artificial car sound just to make you
There's
feel
also
better when
range
you
cars
drive.
out there with artificial car sound.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
But what cars don't have artificial sound, or artificial car sound? I want to hear.
I don't know. Like I know this. I'm never going to put loud pipes on my truck. Back when I had a motorcycle, I didn't like that. Like, but the thing is, like motorcycles, loud pipes keep you safer because you get hit, you're just dead. So you want it to be bright so people will see reflections, and you want it loud so people will hear it.
Well,
So
with my Impala, like it doesn't have any like fake sounds.
Mm.
And like, but if I could choose, like I wouldn't want it to sound like that. Like I want it to be quieter.
okay, you might be able to like come out with a muffler or something like that.
Well, I mean, it's not just that. I think it already has a muffler. It's just like, you know,
Maybe like a newer one, something like a modern one. They'll quiet it down because they make some that are
I mean,
made
it's not
specifically
loud
for now.
now. I mean,
Okay. All right, another thing is location of sale. A convenience store in the middle of the desert differentiates by selling it to miles from competitors. Well, another thing too, like I know we already mentioned that. If I see two gas stations and like they got the same price, I'm not going to the dirty one. You know, I'm going to the cleaner looking one.
You're gonna go with the dirty one.
I'm not the dirty one.
Oh. It's-
Maybe if like all the
They've got
pumps
the-
are closed at the
but the-
clean one, or there's like that one guy there
that's
who's always gonna wash his feet with the gas pump. But
But here's the deal: the dirty one may have the better taquitos and corn dogs.
why? Because they're older.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's been sitting in the grease
It's
all
like
day.
Yeah.
steak and wine. They get better as age.
Okay, so it's like a fermentation thing.
A
So
fermented
Fine
corn
wine.
dog. A cold
Yeah,
dog.
age is like a fine.
okay.
Have you seen that meme where it's like, it's a cold dog?
No.
All right. So another one is service level. Some sellers can charge higher prices because they offer customers higher level of service. So, and yeah, like that's one thing. Is like sometimes if you're not careful, you'll spend a lot more at a fast food joint than you would at a nice sit-in restaurant. You know, so like, and then you're just like, why did I do that? I didn't even like it that much. All right. Advertising image. Advertising creates apparent differences between products and marketplace. So a lot of it has to do with perception, and that can go with like what you're talking about with sound. Yeah, see, that's the thing. Like whenever they like, especially larger corporation or chain businesses, they put a lot of research into how consumers feel about color, about taste, about how the employees dress, about the music that's on, about all of these things. Aesthetics has a lot to do with not only whether somebody wants to go to a place, but whether they might buy more of a product. Like they say, like bright warm colors tend to make people a little more hungry. So that's like why places like McDonald's likes to have orange and yellow, red, stuff like that. Something like KFC. So, of course, a lot now are kind of going like more gray. Like
I don't know why.
I don't know. I think it's like a modern artsy thing. I think. Yeah.
They're trying to get people not to stay in the building.
Oh, really? Get them out
They're trying to get people out the door.
because they already got your business. Get out of here.
I mean, yeah, actually, that.
Man.
For example,
Yeah.
like, well, like, for example, like, you know, like, marketing, it's like, instead of a bright red, there's like brown.
Oh, wait, that was.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, honestly, since I work there, I wanna get out as soon as I can. But honestly,
Yeah.
the thing is, there's people that like stay there for like hours, that's the thing.
Yeah, yeah. My wife and her family love that place, right? And like,
I mean, I don't understand.
I love
why
barbecue.
I mean, I don't understand why they want to stay like from 5 to almost close.
oh yeah, yeah. All I want to do is eat and go. Like, but yeah, whenever it's like a family thing, then I gotta sit there. Everybody
You know
talk.
Taco Bell, it's on Broadway and it's in front of the Carmike Theater.
Okay.
You know Taco Bell, right?
Yeah.
Do you notice how the seats are like a big plastic?
I've never
wood?
been in it. I've
Well,
always been
the
interested.
seats in it are like a big plastic wood that are perfectly where it is uncomfortable. Everything is cold, hard, and you cannot, it just is uncomfortable.
Sounds like a great place to work.
That's the thing, because if you sit in, you don't wanna stay there, you wanna eat and get out. That's
I would
what they're trying to get you to do.
Let's go ahead and move on, kids. All right, so monopolistic versus perfect competition. So here we have a chart outlining the difference between the two. First is prices. With perfect competition, you have lower prices. Firms have no control. Remember, it's just an individual. Think of the farmer's market. Monopolistic competition, the prices are higher. A lot of it has to do with your buying the brand. Firms have some control. So we're talking about like, Pepsi and Coca-Cola. Of course, there are different places that make these products, but they're all controlled by head office. The profits are lower for the farmer. You have to do a lot more work to get those things out. If you pan it out for hourly wages, some people who are selling that stuff on the side of the road, it's actually at a loss because they could have been doing something else that they make money on. For monopolistic competition, higher in short term, but must work hard to keep ahead of rivals. And that's one thing that they talk about, especially businesses that are in the stock market, because they're trying to keep those share values up higher so that they can still reap in from that. All right, perfect competition, cost and variety. Low cost, no variety, identical products. We're talking about carrot, potato.
Do you want us to wrap that?
Nah, it's fine. It's just an example. Monopolistic competition. We have higher costs for differentiation. So this is where we have research and development. A lot of, like with sodas and stuff, these things are made in chemistry labs, and they often test these things across consumers. Like, have you ever heard, like, sometimes when a soda company comes up with a new drink, they'll release it in just a couple of towns to see if people really like it, and they, like, you can't get it everywhere,
I
So,
actually play a game that explored that.
oh, really?
Our usual game that I always talk about. This parody of Coca-Cola company released this thing called Nuka-Cola Quantum.
Mhm.
And it was only released in certain parts of the state, and it was released in pink part.
Ah,
And like.
I'll go with that next time.
I have a better example.
You have a better example?
I'm sorry.
Is it another game thing? Yeah, go
Go
ahead.
Whenever my uncle was around, he
Okay.
would always have his niece,
Mhm.
my aunt, always go to Austin and get him this special type of soda, which was like pineapple flavored soda, and have it bring back.
It was probably Jarritos.
You know about
Doritos. Not that, no. It was,
Harry Joe.
it was
Yeah.
only in like Austin. So
Uh-huh.
he would, whenever she came to Austin,
Yeah.
she would always give him like 3 cases of this pineapple soda, bring it back to
Yeah.
us, and we would love it. So,
Yeah, my dad, there's this place near Austin. He'll go on like a motorcycle trip every now and again, and he'll load up his saddlebags with like these sausages from like some kind of German sausage maker who's like on the outside of Boston. He'll just come back and saddlebags full of meat. Like that. So it's pretty good. So hey, all right. So keep in mind, you need to read this article before tomorrow. It's like 16 pages if you take out the footnotes. Don't read the footnotes. In the meantime, however, I'll show y'all some economic videos.
I'll just turn her over and over and be like, do you like that? I think it's
Of course you can't read.
reaction. I'm just gonna show you some money and like make you laugh.
They're all TED Ed ones, so they're kind of cartoony. Because I know y'all are into cartoons.
You
I've
like
heard
that?
of
Indeed.
You like that?
Hey folks, y'all are gonna have to keep it down so we can hear it. If you whisper lightly, it's okay, but
that began to change. The value of bronze declined, causing social upheaval and an economic crisis, what we would call a recession today. What causes